with Charlie Chaplin often considered one of the greatest forces in silent cinema. Buster Keaton sadly goes overlooked quite a lot at the time. Following on from the tremendous success of The Gold Rush, Chaplin's film, Keaton released a flop. It apparently lost him the approval to make a lot of the creative decisions in his films going forward. But is The General a bad film? Well, according to Orson Welles, the man who is responsible for what is often cited as the greatest film ever made, The General is the greatest comedy film, the greatest Civil War film, and perhaps one of the greatest films ever to be made. So it can't be all that bad, can it? Last time we looked at a piece by Buster Keaton, my biggest complaint was that it was too short and wavered around the story department. On this occasion, though, those points were worked out perfectly. The film feels the right length, and the story is condensed enough to allow the film to revolve almost entirely around two long chase scenes. While I was annoyed by Sherlock Jr. taking up too much time setting up a scenario that wasn't sufficiently resolved, The General sets up everything it needs in the first few minutes, and the action kicks off almost immediately. This action, by the way, takes place almost entirely on a moving train, with Keaton's engineer character running backwards and forwards trying to keep the engine running, whilst also avoiding traps and, later, setting them. The craziness of the stunts in the film make the tension artificially heightened, with Keaton not solely performing brilliant physical and slapstick comedy, but also doing so on a moving train, often jumping from carriage to carriage at high speeds. One of the biggest surprises was just how much comedy can come from a single character in a single location, admittedly a moving one, and with a single goal. At first, anything that ends up posing some form of harm to the protagonist ends up resolving itself without him noticing, and later, it turns out that many of his comical errors work out for the best in the end. One of the most beloved things about Buster Keaton is his character's simplicity. No matter what the situation, he is the little man trying to do good. This is the part of the reason I was disappointed by Sherlock Jr., as his powerful alter ego takes over for the majority of the screen time, and we don't get a chance to see him battle for his success. In The General, Keaton is always the little man that could, and spends his time working flat out to achieve his noble goal while proving that he may not be the most competent man in the room, but he is always the best man. It's this careless innocence that allows the film to get away with an awful lot. Every time he gets off the train for one reason or another, you can bet that the train will begin moving again and force him to chase it down. You can also bet that it'll be funny every time, either because the humour has been raised to the right level, or because Keaton always has some tremendous reaction to every situation. There is also the fact that, in the second half, Keaton is making a getaway with the female lead, and the pair's dynamics are a joy to behold. By this point, Keaton has gone through all this before, and has a chance to play the straight man to Marion Mank's comic relief. On the one hand, seeing her take a break to sweep the floor of the train, or turning herself into a damsel in distress by trapping herself on the train, is a little cringeworthy. But on the other hand, a recurring joke of her picking up the smallest pieces of firewood to stock in the engine is always hilarious. At the end of the day, The General is a true rip-roaring adventure that cleverly plays with the ideas of staging and character, and is able to make a thoroughly tremendous chase scene into an entire movie. The film is definitely worth watching, as it is one of those films that you will never have seen anything like it before. Well, that is if you haven't seen Fury Road. But Keaton did it first. 4 out of 5 stars. Love it.